alone can fix it.
The presidency has too much power, and this explains a lot of our current polarization. We care too much about the presidency because it matters too much. This power largely comes from two policies found in the Constitution: the ability of the president to issue executive orders and the ability of the president to appoint certain offices. These are necessary executive functions, but they've been blown out of proportion. Let's look at how. Abraham Lincoln suspended habeas corpus via executive order, but let's give him some leeway considering the circumstances. Teddy Roosevelt issued around 1,000 executive orders, blowing the previous record out of the water. Woodrow Wilson believed that the president, quote, is at liberty to be as big a man as he can be, and bested Teddy's order count by something like 800. FDR issued executive orders at a rate similar to Teddy's and Wilson's, but also pushed through laws creating much of the administrative state and laying the groundwork for its further expansion. He also released previously confidential census information and used it to imprison over 100,000 law-abiding Japanese Americans. Perhaps, though, besides this last example, you don't understand exactly why executive expansion is a problem.
It's hard to connect with the personality of an entity or a behemoth, an institution. But everybody naturally, especially in a media age, connects with the personality of one individual person. And so then now you end up with more passions for or against a person.
So stronger presidencies can give way to cults of personality, but they polarize us another way too. Here's a clip discussing Trump's executive orders.
He is laying his achievements vulnerable to simple reversal when, say, President Biden comes in this January 21st. Only by working with Congress to effect statutory change do you give it a kind of long-lasting legacy and permanence.
And indeed, Biden's first 100 days found him issuing many executive orders, simply reversing Trump's. The issue here is not the substance of the orders, but rather the sudden reversal of so much. This creates what I call a pendulum effect. Less and less is long-term, more and more swings dramatically in one direction every time the White House's party changes. This, predictably, increases the stakes of each election and breeds polarization. These arguments, however, are not universal points of view. A 2020 Washington Post analysis piece argues that an even stronger executive branch could help fight populism, saying, quote, addressing today's challenges requires the kind of coherent, problem-solving leadership that presidents can offer. And that is why presidential leadership, responsibly leveraged, enables American democracy to work. Perhaps, but color me skeptical. How exactly do we ensure the responsibly leveraged part? Others have a different concern.
I don't think that there's been sort of an expansion of the executive powers per se. It's more of an expansion of government generally, and what the executive gets to oversee.
Point taken, but I consider executive expansion a problem independent of government expansion. Now the question is, what can be done? One avenue is expansion of non-delegation doctrine. This is essentially the legal concept that Congress cannot delegate away all of its power.
Right, so a lot of things are good in certain amounts, but when you have too much of it, it's bad. And we are well beyond, in my opinion, being anywhere near a healthy level of administrative state.
Congress has not overturned a law on non-delegation since 1935. However, Justice Gorsuch of the Supreme Court brought up the principle in a recent opinion, so perhaps that could soon change. This is not the only possible way, however, that the executive branch could be reined in.
Nothing can be done until Congress is willing to do its job.
Pretty clear. They said we expect ambition to counteract ambition. We expect each of the branches to use their constitutional powers to fight against each other.
But instead, they cede power to the executive.
Congress doesn't stand up for itself because Judge McConnell, this is a feature, not a bug, from the subjective viewpoint of many members of Congress. They're not inclined to say that publicly. Many of them might not even articulate that concept to themselves. But at the end of the day, it works for many members of Congress to be able to have someone else to demagogue and someone else to blame.
So to recap, it was the founders' policy that the executive branch, have executive power and the power to fill federal offices. This is largely why we have a president. But the power of the presidency has been stretched far beyond what is healthy, breeding polarization via the pendulum effect. It's imperative that Congress rein the president in, but perverse incentives stand in the way.
For a lot of people, it's become just a bridge to a book deal or a Fox News or a CNN contract.
There was nothing wrong with the founders' presidential policy, only something wrong with its distortion by self-interested politicians of all stripes that leads a presidential nominee to say that he alone can fix it. How does the federal government affect me? It turns my friend against my friend, neighbor against neighbor. It consumes the minds of the politically obsessed and stokes their ranks. I am asking that it kindly stop.